Can I take you back in time? The year is 1990. I just lost trial. Instead of having a going away party, I was told to stand, to put my hands behind my back. And me and my co-defendants were led to the back, and there we cried. Everybody who was involved, who perhaps had my best interest at heart, asked me to throw myself on the mercy of the court, to seek the least amount of time possible. But my mother, I'm so thankful that she is still here with us today. She used to tell me that she was raised in the Jim Crow South. She taught us about folks like Denmark Vesey, Toussaint Louverture, El-Hajj Malik Shabazz, also known as Malcolm X, Dr. Martin Luther King, and countless others. And so this day that we were led back into the court to receive our sentence, and they asked me to stand up to speak if I had anything to say. I began with the words of El-Hajj Malik Shabazz. I'm not going to sit here at your table and watch you eat and call myself dinner. Sitting here at your table doesn't make me dinner, just like being here in America doesn't make me an American. I had just turned 16 a few months before. Let us begin. Stress is the anger that is built up inside. Rage is the anger that is no longer built. Taking on a sucker that soon you have killed. American free will doesn't mean you can kill. And take another person's life, you live your life trife. I'm a skill builder, so on skills I do build. Creator giving knowledge to this wise black man, soon to enhance my words across the land. I'm a smooth type of fellow, cool, calm, and mellow. I'm kind of laid back, but now I'm speaking so that you know. I got used and abused, and even was put on the news without clues. Some gave clues, selling out like fools. Now check this. Who did what and who did who in? Put in a situation that you don't know what to do in. Some brothers go wildin', we're not down with them. Who would have thought I'd have to lock in? I stand accused. Checking the scene from how the situation was. Instead of getting facts, the media made you blurred. Now the people don't know. All they see is the media. They never hear the blame because they're constantly deceiving us. The DA is dead wrong. This is her master plan? This case is not a case, it's just a crafted sham. Yo, instead of trying to get your name made, it's reconstructing the crime that really pays. Islam, la ilaha illallah, being supreme over Satan, but no man is Allah. Yes, I'm a science dropper on the righteous path, so how the hell could I take a rapist's path? Think about that and then think about this. All my friends, it was me they dissed, they're dismissed. Cause I don't really need any friends like that. Like when I really needed you, where were you at? I'm not dissing them all, but the ones that I called that went and dissed me. Like I was an inch small, like a rat, a mouse, not even a man, we're only accused. Like the knife's in my hand. How does it look? Me clocked, now I'm shook, but like Matlock, soon the accused gets off the hook. It's real when she remembers and says, damn, the cops did you in, I stand accused. You people stop. This racial disperse. Hey, yo, you seen that kid Benson? He's in the Hearst. And so we take it to the Benson Hearst fields. Whites had bulletproof vests. We had no kinds of shields. How does it look? They killed the black man being black. It's time we take a stand. In our situation, you saw our faces clear, but not mine. not because of fear. It's because the black race was disgraced, and for the Muslim, they must have felt shame, but I'm not to blame with the words you bought. The media took our words to paper, the ones the cops distorted. I told the cops truth like this, and then boom, they were smacking my man Corey Wise in the next room. Now I know why the rosters can't stand the Babylon. They never help, they just babble on. I used to think the people and cops were cool, but who protects us from you? I stand accused. The judge's face said it all. His facial expression at that very moment looked as if he wanted to disallow, probably perhaps to change the law, to disallow anyone to speak before sentencing. The very next day, somebody from the New York Post took a picture of my rap song. It was on the front page of the New York Post. At 12 years old, I wanted to be a rap artist. As a matter of fact, I walked up the block from LaGuardia High School, and there was ASCAP Records. Went upstairs, and back then they had rap applications. I said, I'm gonna be the youngest hip hop artist out here. Man, I picked up the rap application, took it home, and got cold feet. Imagine my debut as a rap artist, being in the courtroom at 16, accused of a crime I didn't commit. The worst crime that you can go to prison for. The only crime that trumps rape is child molestation. And inmates have their own way of dealing with that kind of atrocity. I remember when they handed down the sentence. I had already been to Spofford, but I got bailed out and I was home for almost a year. But this time, they sent us to Rikers Island. I stayed there for about a month. Then they claimed they just realized they made a mistake. They were supposed to send us back to Spofford. They were hoping that someone from the prison would get their hands on us. They were hoping that we would be done off. You know, Donald Trump, I'm talking about the guy in the White House. Y'all know who I'm talking about? Y'all heard of him? I don't know if y'all know. But Donald Trump took out full-page ads in New York City's newspapers calling for the death penalty to be reinstated in our case. Now, I'm holding this up because a dear friend of mine is in the audience, Deborah Watts. And I'm happy to see her. I didn't know she was going to be here. But often when I talk about what happened, often when I talk about what Donald Trump was trying to do, he was trying to get someone from the darkest enclaves of society to come into our homes, to drag us from our beds, and to do to us what they had done to Emmett Till. We heard the story because of the accusation of a whistle. They sought him, drug him from the loving arms of his family's grip, beat him to death, shot him in the head, tied a cotton gin around his neck, and put him in the bottom of the river. Years later, decades later, a lifetime later, we found out that his accuser said she made the whole story up. Imagine that. We became the modern day Scottsboro Boys. Donald Trump, through this ad, wanted to incite the people to get us. As a matter of fact, another interesting personality decided to chime in. Reagan's one-time White House director of communications and professional racist, Pat Buchanan, went full lynch mob, supposing in the New York Post that if the eldest of the wolf pack were tried, convicted, and hung in Central Park by June 1st, and the 13 and 14-year-olds who were stripped, the 13 and 14-year-olds were stripped and horsewhipped and sent to prison, that might make the city's park safe again. Corey was 16. He was the eldest. I was 15 at the time. There were others that were 14. To fast forward, because I know my time is a bit limited, I want to share this with you. I wrote these remarks recently because in the context of what happened to the Central Park Five, we were vilified, we were run over by the spike wheels of justice, but unbeknownst to them, God is always the best of planners. And so not only just recently were we rebranded the Exonerated Five, but I thought about our case in the context of history. And this is what I wrote. I said the Central Park jogger case is a love story between God and his people. It's a story of a criminal system of injustice turned on its side to produce a miracle in modern times. Of how a people can be brought low only to rise because the truth can never stay buried. Of a people buried alive and forgotten. The system forgot that we are all seeds. And instead of a social death, we emerged like the phoenix from the ashes. Because as they built the fire to consume us, they forgot the owner of the heat. You know, when I look at this case, I used to get kind of weirded out about the dynamics. Like one of the dynamics that made me feel nervous, perhaps afraid, was when they decided to send me on my 21st birthday to Clinton, Dannemora, one of the worst prisons in New York, period. The only prison that's probably worse than Clinton is Attica. And I was going to number 2, Clinton. And I kept wondering why my mother was so calm and cool. And I said, Ma, they sending me to Clinton. I mean, I had been used to getting visits literally every single week. My mother came up to see me without fail every single week. But now, I was going about 5 to 15 miles from Canada. When I got up there, I remember walking around the yard. It felt like a football field. And I was trying to do my best to let people know not to mess with me. I'm from Harlem. Had my Harlem bop, my kufi on, and 2 brothers rolled up on me. I was instantly shook. I said, you brother Yusef Salaam? I said, yeah. He said, come with us. I said, all right. Damn, they about to kill me in the corner. Shucks. Man, they brought me over to this brother who was beating up this bag. And I mean, when every time he hit the bag, I felt sorry for the bag. I mean, the bag was getting ripped up, and he was just going to work. And then they said, we found him. And I said, oh, man, here it comes. The brother turned around, looked at me. He said, we are members of the Black Panther Party. We are members of the Black Liberation Army. And we are Muslims. If anyone touches you, we will shut this place down. I said, man, I'm with the right folks, man. That's right. My bop got a little stronger. I was like, yeah, that's right. See, what happened was my mother was already told that I would be safe in the mountains. One day I got up and went to the yard, and one of the brothers, the old timers, Luke Mann, he came up to me. He said, hey, young blood, you know what your numbers mean? And I said, no. The dynamic is that every single day, at least 3 times a day, when they say on the count, you have to get up and come to the front of your cell and say your name and say your number, and then you can go back to doing whatever it is that you were doing. My number was 95A 1113. And I said, no, I don't know what it means. He says, well, the first part is the day. The second part is the position. And the third part is you. I said, okay, well, break it down. He said, well, you came to the adult facility in 1995. My birthday is in February. You came in the first part of the year because your birthday is in February. It's either A, B, or R. A, first half of the year. B, second half of the year. R, you left and you came back, so you returned. Now this is where it gets interesting. My number was 1,113 people that had entered the door, and it was only February 27th of 1995. The man who was telling me this might have had a number that began with 72, a number that began with 69, a number that began with 74. These folks had been in prison for longer than I had been alive. But there was hope. There was value. To step back just a quick second, while I was in the youth facility, maybe 6 months into my prison bid, something happened to me. Something happened that changed the trajectory of my life. An officer came up to me and asked me a question. That question is written in my book of poems. And the question was, who are you? I said, I'm Yusef Salaam, one of the guys they accused of raping the Central Park jogger, but I didn't do it. And he said, I know that. He said, I've been watching you. You're not supposed to be here. Why are you here? Who are you? This philosophical question that I thought was just a simple question began to cause me to think deep and long and hard about who am I? When I was growing up, people would always say, what's your name? And I would say, Yusef. And they would say, Joseph? And I would say, no, Yusef. And they would say, Joseph? I said, man, these folks got a speech impediment. So I slowed it down. Yusef. And they slowed it down. Joseph. I said, man, that's close enough. That's close enough. Imagine, if you will, my utter amazement to be in prison and to find out that there's a story about a young man who became a prophet in the Bible, and his name is Joseph. Imagine my amazement that this young man went to prison for a crime that he didn't commit. And that crime was that he was accused of rape. When I read this same story in the Quran, it was predicated with an understanding of who this man was. It said that when God created Yusuf, he gave him half of all things beautiful and placed it inside this man. That's how handsome or how beautiful this man was. And as we know the story, he was sold into slavery, and as he grew up in the house of the person that he was under the, I don't want to say bondage of, but I guess they purchased him, right? As he started growing into a fine young man, the lady of the house began to desire him. And it says that he too would have desired her had something not been placed in his heart. And so when she went to get him, he ran. And her husband came through the door. And she said, what's the punishment for a person who seeks the wife of the owner of the house, basically? And he looked at her and said, come on, stop playing. He asked Yusuf, listen, can you just excuse her? Can we just forget about this? And then he rebuked his wife and told her to get it together. What happened, which is very interesting, is that people in the community began to hear about this. And they started talking about her. They were gossiping. And she said, okay, I'm gonna call everybody to my house and I'm gonna have a big banquet. And so she had a banquet. She gave everybody some fruits and a knife. And everybody was chatting it up, talking it up, and about to cut, he probably was cutting up their fruit, having a good old time. She said, oh, Yusuf, can you come in for 1 second? Yusuf emerged, and every single person in that audience cut their hands and remarked, this can't be a human being. She then turned it up and said, if you don't give me some, I'm gonna say that you raped me. And he said, well, shoot, prison is better for me than what you call me to. And they sent him to jail. But in jail is where he began to realize his gifts. And I'm saying that because I'm not Prophet Yusuf. But while I was in the belly of the beast, if you can imagine the belly of the beast being similar to the belly of a mother, I read a poem, and the poem succinctly said that prison life in many ways can be likened to the womb. If the life inside becomes stillborn, the womb becomes the tomb. I refused to become a slave. According to the 13th Amendment, this is what they wanted for me. I was being shaped and formed in the belly of the beast in order to fight today. They say that God meant it for good, even though they meant it for evil. I emerged with my faculties. I emerged with thought. I emerged to talk about it. And last thing I say before we start. I remember when I went to get a job, I heard there was a job that was waiting for me. And so I said, you know what, I need to put my best foot forward. Came home from prison, every single door of success was being shut in my face. So I wanted to make sure that I had the best opportunity by putting my best foot forward. So I go to 125th Street. Before I step over the threshold, a man in the back, he looks at me and says, 44 long, right? I said, well, shoot, yeah, okay. He said, come on in the back, I got something for you. I go to the back with this gentleman, and he slides a jacket on me. And I'm checking it out. I'm like, oh, not bad. I said, who makes it? And I swear I'm looking at the guy, and it appeared as if time slowed down and he was clearing his throat as he pumped out his chest. And he said, that's a Donald Trump suit. I threw that jacket off so fast, he would have thought it was on fire. So as you can imagine, this is not a Donald Trump suit, but I am so honored and happy to be here in front of you to share today.